Hello, beautiful, lightful souls. Thank you so much to those of you who joined my spiritual community. I love meditating with you and getting to know so many of you on a spiritual path. So, thank you if you can join at that time. It's quite a lot of fun to hear your experiences and learn from you, actually. So, I would like to talk today a little bit more about a topic I've talked a lot about, and that is the near death experience. But I was asked this question by someone who said, "Hey, if you could sum up the most important takeaway from your near death experience, what would that be?" I had trouble summing that up. I mean, I think the very first realization was probably the most important realization in many ways, because so many people go through life afraid of death and connected to this material realm. But there was so much peace, so much joy, so much freedom in death. It wasn't at all the way I imagined it as an agnostic. And even for believers, I'm assuming that it's hard to imagine the amount of light, the amount of joy. But when I talk to people's ancestors on the other side, sometimes they assure me that they will be there to greet their loved one, and it'll be like a dance, or like you're jumping into their arms, hugging them. And there's so much light, so much joy, this party like reunion at times. It's really beautiful. There's so much about realizing that I was not just this body, I was something so much more. And in many ways, I liked my consciousness better outside of the body. It's almost as if the pain in the body, the senses take away from that clear consciousness that is just safe, can't be harmed, because really it is the body that can be harmed, that we can self-sabotage it through addictions, through just not treating it well. We are prone to accidents, and there are predators, and there's many dangers that we have to walk through in this body. But in that spirit realm, there's this safety, this absolute like safety, like, oh, at that level, at that soul level, I can't be harmed, I can't be eradicated. And most of all, I think people get very attached to who they are. And that we could get into a long conversation about, you're not your thoughts, but you are your essence, you are your soul. And I thought differently outside of body. I was more like a child, which was one of the next messages. I was in that moment completely taking in everything, kind of joyful about this new experience. One of the other messages from the near death experience was to be like a little child. And children, or that consciousness that's very loving and forgiving and joyful, can be taken advantage of. So I've often wondered about that particular message. But when I passed by an elementary school the other day, and I saw this young boy just so excited to wave goodbye to his mom and so excited to go to school. And I thought that joy for life is what we should all hang on to, no matter what age we are. That joy makes us ageless, makes us timeless. And there is much to appreciate about being alive. And it shouldn't take a near death experience to make people appreciate life and appreciate the experience of being here, of giving our joy to whatever is in front of us, giving our love to what we are focusing on in this moment, and really creating the life that we want to create. But children are quick to forgive. And, again, another topic that is a very long topic, and I could go on and on about, but forgiveness is, of course, not for that other person. It's for you to feel freer, to feel like you are navigating your life in the way that you want it to, without being burdened by the weight of thinking about being wronged or experiencing this or that. And, that's been, for me, it's kind of like an onion. There are layers to forgiveness, but there is a point when you do feel so much freer than you've ever felt. And that's when life takes on this different experience where everything feels new. So the near death experience also, one of the main messages was to remind them to go to nature. And I have to tell you, I am so sick of social media, to market a book, to market a summit, to market anything, you have to be on this phone and on your computer. And certainly people get to a level where they're able to pay someone to do a lot of that. It is tiring, it's draining. There's different types of tired, and technology can be one type of tired. You can get 8 hours of sleep, but when you're on social media for any reason, scrolling, etc., it takes away energy, is what I've begun to realize. And so I've kind of lost some interest in that. I love connecting with people in my spiritual community. I love making the occasional video, but I am not as driven to be online. In fact, my usage on social media has gone way down, and I don't, even after writing a memoir, I feel so private. And I don't know if this is a natural evolution from putting a lot of information out there, but I've also, I guess, come to realize that most people are curious about you, but most people don't honestly wish you well. And so why should they know what I'm doing, who I'm dating, what I'm up to? I'll probably never post anything about, what is really going on. The people in my life will know that, but it's just not meant to be out there. There's something beautiful about being private. And to that point, one of the messages from the near death experience was remind them to go to nature. So in nature, you can let go of that draining effect of social media, of the digital world. When you take a walk out in nature, don't listen to a podcast. I'm not telling you what to do. You can listen to a podcast if you want, if you're outside, but I'm just saying that there's benefit to listening to the wind in the trees, to being present, to looking at different colors. A friend of mine who I've interviewed, Robin Lansong, talked about how the EMDR helps you let go of trauma. And she said that sometimes if there's trauma stored in some part of her brain, she'll look to different parts in nature and kind of move her eyes around and release trauma. So nature can certainly help you release trauma. It can help you release physical pain, emotional pain. There have been so many times when I've simply given my problems to God, to nature, to a higher power, anything that I can't particularly work out. And at an end of a walk or a hike, I felt different. I felt better. My energy has been renewed. So there's something beautiful about coupling a spiritual practice with nature. And there's something that changes you through time when, people who are in deep grief, they might pick a particular location or a tree. We see in parks, sometimes people will leave a monument or a note to someone who's passed, and they sit on that park bench, and there's something that is etched into the soul, those moments. It's you, it's your creator, it's this moment where you're really in that moment and working at this deep level on a wound. And when you pass it later, you might feel a little different, but it's a way of honoring yourself, honoring a moment. There's so many different ways that I could talk about going to nature, but at a basic level, being more in touch with food that comes from the ground, with breathing fresh air, with being in nature, looking at the moon, spending time in nature changes who we are. And unfortunately, technology changes who we are too. And sometimes people seem rather robotic, or as if they're losing this ability to truly connect, or they don't have bandwidth for it. Because to truly connect, you go back, and I'm part of the generation, probably many of you who are listening are part of that generation too, where you remember a before and after technology. And I remember writing letters and having long conversations. And when you have a deep conversation with someone, they've given you a part of their life, their soul. But when you have a disjointed conversation, you share something really deep, and then someone looks at their phone and text message this for business and blah, blah, it doesn't feel the same. There's an emptiness to it, as it's the brain cannot focus on more than one thing at a time. And it's like, well, then just focus on your phone. Like, don't even try to be social. And I know that younger generations don't look at it that way. I mean, I've seen documentaries and read Sherry Turkle's books. She talks a lot about this in Alone Together, which is a pretty interesting book. And there's plenty of books out there that talk about setting limits with social media. I guess I would say spend more time in nature. If you have a social media addiction, turn it off for that time in nature. Don't listen to anything. Let nature be this healing power in your life. Let it be a force that is a different force from technology, that we really, we need both. And I'm the first to admit that, technology is great, and it's opened up so many levels of success and connection around the world. And I love seeing people succeed in unusual ways because of social media. So I'm not discrediting it. I'm saying we need balance, that, we need, as individuals and as a culture that preserves the sacredness of nature, but also uses the advances of technology. And I hope that's the direction that we're going, that we are working to bring more balance in that way. There are so many messages, and I don't want to preach, but I just want to talk openly because I'm so grateful that you listen and that I have this format. The other message from the near-death experience that I've talked too much about is that love is all that matters and all that we take with us. Now, why is it important to keep remembering that? I don't know about you, but I tend to think a lot. And I think it was Charles Bukowski, and many great thinkers have said that anyone who has a lot going on mentally, anyone who is intelligent, is going to suffer to some degree. That the brain causes you to see too much, experience too much, and there's suffering, there's worry, there's uncertainty. But what I've found is like, well, shift out of it. What can I do that I love? What can I do that brings me joy? What can I do to benefit others? What can I do that is a way to break out of that thinking? And, creating videos and speaking with others is a way to break out of that. Picking up the phone and talking to someone, spending time with people, and really living a life of service is probably the best way to get out of that. But that love is all that matters can be taken in so many different ways. And oftentimes that love simply has to be turned into yourself. Pay attention to what you're feeling, pay attention to what you're going through, and really sit with it, let it, let the negativity leave you, leave room for whatever negative thought is coming into your consciousness to be replaced by something else, and for that energy to leave. I think one of the beautiful things that many spiritual teachers are talking about right now, and they have been, is that we are purging a lot of negativity from our cultural consciousness, from our conditioning, from our upbringing. And so say you feel anxious, or you feel depressed, or you feel worried, and you tell yourself, I'm a worrywart, or I'm anxious. Instead of telling yourself that, open yourself to healing from that. It might be degrees, but you can be your own healer with that power of unconditional love from our creator. In a moment like that, go, well, what would it feel like on all levels to not be depressed or not be anxious? Can I let go of that to some degree? Is that written in stone, or can it be replaced with something else? Can I shift out of it? And the shift might be gradual, it might be miraculous, but this is something I've just learned from studying healing and learned from letting go of things, is that you can open yourself to healing from horrific moments and from deep trauma, that it is possible. You can also be very compassionate with yourself with your choices and the way the trauma has affected you and your life. And so, in that compassion, you can still reach for healing. I have never claimed to be perfect. In fact, most of the time I kind of laugh because I've exposed so much of how I'm not healed or not perfect, but I'm healing. And it's kind of miraculous when you think about how far you've come and how much you've parented yourself and how much you can still continue to be a force of light and a force of love. I know a lot of light workers and people who are centering love on this planet are beginning to feel tired. And I think I'm one of them. I think I'm one who is a little overworked at times. And so in those moments, I think it's important to show yourself compassion, spend more time doing the things that nurture yourself, rejuvenate yourself so that you can return with joy to what you love doing, to what you love doing in the sense of spreading light and really working towards greater love on this planet. So to answer that question in a long-winded way, what's the most important takeaway from the near-death experience? It's how to live better. Like dying taught me how to live better, how to love the moment a whole lot more, to be a lot more joyful in the moment, a lot more playful, a lot more humorous than I was before, to not take things so seriously because hey, we all die. That's what we have in common. And even the worst of situations, if you project forward and you go, these people are going to die. And when you look at it this way, then you go, let's just have compassion for everyone on this journey. Let's have compassion for ourselves. Let's try to make this world a better place in the ways that we have energy to do that, and in the ways that we can, and in the ways that we can serve. And let's take wonderful care of ourselves, and let's go to nature, and let's laugh like children at times, because without laughter, this existence can be pretty tough. Like it's really important to laugh, to play, to enjoy your life, and to know that this body is not all. So, aging is not, it can be a little shocking. It can be, jarring how fast time can go and how we change through time. But what is important is to know that it's the soul, it's that spark of light, that divinity that you are taking back to the light. You came here with a lot of light. You're trying to hold on to as much of it as you can, remember as much of it as you can, and spread as much of that light from the other side here while you live. So dying taught me to live better. Um, the people who want to criticize me all they want, I would have been a lot different. And I don't think I would have been as happy had I not had that near-death experience. I spend a significant time of each day just being happy to be alive. And I hope you do too. May you be blessed.